Editing my work in progress, day 10. And as of about noon, my manuscript went back. I think I wrote the last word at almost exactly noon, which is pretty funny. And I had given myself just the morning. I was hoping that that would be the case, that I would be able to get that final chapter wrapped up in time to get it back before afternoon. And I was successful. So I'm feeling pretty good right now. I'm riding a bit of a high. One of the most fun moments for an author is when you hold your final book, a paperback version, or I don't have any hardbacks yet, but when you hold a physical version of your book in your hand, that's a wonderful moment. I equate it on some levels to holding a child for the first time. Not quite as intense, but it's a similar feeling. And I think finishing this current draft of my work in progress is pretty high up there. And I know when I get the edits back, I'm going to swing back into that low of, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But for right now, I love my book. I had so much fun rewriting the last few chapters, and I really think they are much better than they were initially. Um, took out a whole piece of the storyline that really didn't work and replaced that with something that I think was a little better, I hope. So we'll see when it actually goes out into the world. But as of right now, Restless Spirits Book 2 is back with my editors, and they will start working on Friday for the next round. These are the line edits, so they will be checking for grammar, punctuation, and things like that. And once I get that back in 2 weeks, so it will be, oh my gosh, should be May Day. What great timing. Mayday, Mayday, your manuscript's back. So once that comes back again, I'll polish up whatever needs to be fixed, and then there won't be a deadline to get that one back to the editors because then it goes into the proofreading queue for kind of a final check to make sure we haven't missed anything. And then once that's done, I'll again fix whatever needs to be fixed and we'll send it back one last time. They do a macro where they check to make sure all the punctuation is in place, uh, periods, commas, semicolons, all that good stuff, opening and closing quotes, all of that. So they just want to make sure that everything is as polished as possible. That doesn't mean we don't miss things because inevitably, once the book is published and we first open that copy, we'll open to the page with the most glaring error. And that's just the way it is. But that happens even if an author is traditionally published. You just can't avoid it. And that's one of the things I think that we need to take a step back and think about. Nothing is ever going to be perfect. And we try as hard as we do to make our work the best, most polished product possible. But, things still slip through. So if you are a reader watching this and you are a little frustrated when you're finding books with a lot of typos or something in them, just remember that in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, the person who produced that book or the group that produced that book did their best to try to clean up everything possible. I will admit that one of my, I don't know if it's a strength or a fault, is that I do tend to catch a lot of those things in other people's work. Not in my own, of course, because I'm too close to it. But I did help proofread Nevada Magazine for a period of time when I was working at the Nevada Commission on Tourism, and I wasn't getting paid extra or anything. It was just something fun for me to do because at the time I was working on the front desk and I would have long stretches where I didn't have anything to do. So I wanted to keep as busy as possible, and I started helping out the magazine. And proofreading really turned out to be one of my strengths. So I will hone in if I'm reading a book of my own that somebody else has written. I will hone in on all of the typos and misspelled words and things like that. But on the flip side, like I said, I'm too close to my own work to see it. I will say that as I was editing, I did go back a couple of times because I started to fix something and I moved ahead without completing what I was doing. Another one of my tangents. And when I went back to kind of pick up that dropped stitch, you might say, I would inevitably find where I'd forgotten to put in a word or something. So I did fix a few of those things. But overall, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of things that the editor, the line editor, will be pointing out to me that I missed. Probably things like problems with my sentence structure. And, I do remember diagramming sentences as a kid. And over time, you forget the technical aspects of it. I can tell you how to write a proper sentence, or I can use a proper sentence, but I can't always tell you why or what it is that makes that sentence a proper one. So, plus, language evolves over time, in case you didn't know. So, that's been my day. I spent the entire morning. I got up, had breakfast, and got to work right away. JT went out and did his morning work session at Comma Coffee again. He was very careful not to be too distracting before he left the house, so I really appreciate that. And then around noon, like I said, I was done. And a little bit after I finished lunch, I hit send and returned the book to my editors. So, what's next? Well, now I have to get back to Battleborn Bride. That's not happening today because my mind is racing with all the things that I will be doing in successive books of the Restless Spirit series. As I've mentioned previously, book 3 is written, but it will be revised, and then I'm not going to even touch that one until Battleborn Bride is ready to go. And then the successive books after Restless Spirits 3, I think those are going to come out pretty quickly. And I'm not going to stress about getting them out at a particular time, but I'm feeling pretty good about the fact that I am managing to stick to some of the goals that I've set for myself recently, like posting these daily videos and getting that book turned around in 2 weeks when I dropped a few days here and there. I will be taking another day off on Saturday. I might do a little bit of writing. I'm going to try as hard as possible to get at least an hour or so a day in, especially as I get back to fast drafting my work in progress. We're going to be switching back to that playlist, but Saturday will be a grandkid day. So, and also JT and I will be doing our weekly meeting, and we'll have our podcast recording on Sunday morning. So I will have a couple of things going on in there, but otherwise, I plan to spend as much time as possible completing Battleborn Bride. I want to make sure that I get it off for the beta read. They want it there by May 13th, so I have less than a month to finish that. I will be going back to the beginning of the book because I'm going to add something that occurred to me. And it's not that I'm changing the story, I'm just adding something that I probably should have pointed out initially. And I know exactly where that will go. So that won't be me going back and revising anything right now. I'm just going to add it to the beginning of the story. And then once I do that, I may skim it to refresh myself on where I was when I left the story to go back to Restless Spirits. And then it's going to be just diving in to get the book done. And I think there will be some changes coming once I get the draft done. If I get it done in plenty of time, I may go back and start revising right away because I do think I want to shift a few things. But if I don't get to that point, I'm going to go ahead and send it for the beta read, see what that person has to say, and I will also talk to my other beta readers and see if they can do a quick read at the same time so I get all of the notes back together, and then I can do that revision. And again, that will be another one of those quick turnarounds. Now, that's going to be a little bit challenging because, as I mentioned, I'm sending it to my editors on May 13th, and then JT and I are going to be taking a little trip to Utah for my Conference of Intermountain Archivists event so that I can see a lot of my former colleagues and see what's going on in the archival world. And we may swing around and visit the Grand Canyon while we're out there. And then I'll come back probably just in time to get Battleborn Bride back so that I can revise it. While that's happening, I'm also going to be starting a cover contest for Restless Spirits Book 2 very soon. And I want to have that cover ready to go as soon as Restless Spirits is ready to go. I'm still thinking I'm not going to make my Memorial Day deadline, which is okay. Um, Maybe closer to Flag Day. We'll say about June 14th. I think that's probably a little bit more reasonable at this point. And as I've previously mentioned, one of the reasons I'm rushing Battleborn Bride into edits right now, even though I'm releasing it in October, is I want to make sure all those edits are done in plenty of time for the book to be published in September, because I want to have physical copies on hand while I'm doing events throughout the month of October. And I'm going to try a marketing blitz for this one and see how that goes. And I may talk more about that tomorrow. I think tomorrow will not be part of my fast drafting playlist. I think tomorrow will just kind of be a cleaning out my mind video, because there are a few things I want to talk about. So we'll probably just take a break from the fast drafting updates tomorrow. If I do a little bit, I may just mention it, but that won't be the gist of the video. I just want to, like I said, I really need to clear out my head. I got to switch gears again. And then I will get back into Battleborn Bride. So it's been a good day. It's really been, it started out a little rough because I was pretty sure I was going to get done with no problem today. I just wasn't sure how quickly I could get the last part of it written. I left off in a pivotal moment when I closed my manuscript yesterday, which I think was a good thing because it dropped me right back into the action. And that way I didn't have that hesitation to get started. So it really went well, and I'm very pleased. And just I think JT is also pleased because I get a little tense, and he's been trying his best not to step on my toes while I'm trying to concentrate, and it can be so hard because the funny thing is that I don't know. I think I've probably mentioned he has cochlear implants. He is hearing impaired, and he has the ability to stream music into the Bluetooth of his hearing processor. So it blocks out all the external noise and all he hears is the music. So if I try to talk to him, I actually have to physically get his attention. But he'll do that while he's writing, which is great. I mean, that's one of the ways he focuses so well. But sometimes he starts singing when he's not thinking about it, and he can't hear the volume of his own voice. So um, some of that type of detail actually made it into Restless Spirits book 2, because one of the main characters does have a cochlear implant. It is a pivotal part of the storyline that I won't go into too much more, but I am trying to be as widely representative with my characters as I can be, because I have lived with a long time. My husband lost or started losing his hearing probably a decade or more ago, maybe closer to 2 decades at this point. And um, let's see, people with all of their abilities intact don't really consider the problems facing people who are, you might say, differently abled. And one of the things that JT mentioned at one point that I didn't even think about was he was frustrated that television shows wouldn't or television stations would not um, closed caption commercials, which I'm sure they probably have closed captioning now, but initially they didn't. And it's not that he was really cared about the product, but he felt like he was being excluded because he had no idea what they were talking about. So those kind of things are very important. And that's why I'm trying to include diverse characters in my books. In Passion Restored, there is a character who is in a wheelchair. I don't have a lot of experience with that, but one of my kids did break a bone and she had to use one of those scooters for a while. And just seeing the problems maneuvering, like those cuts in the sidewalk, the dips that allow people to get up and down, those are so important. Or things like the width of an aisle in a store, because we would go around and normally the width between the aisles would be fine because you have shopping carts, but going around the corners where the end caps are could be a little bit tight. And maneuvering her little cart, her wheelie, we called it her wheelie, maneuvering that around the corners could be really challenging. So I did not think about a lot of these things as a person who still has pretty much full mobility, full hearing. My vision, of course, is not great, but I've been wearing glasses since I was a kid, so I don't really think about it. But thinking about the challenges that other people face is very important. So that's why I'm including those kind of characters in my book. And I'm trying very hard to make sure I don't drop the challenges during the course of the story, which is one of the reasons I really wanted JT to read Restless Spirits book 2, because I wanted his take on what it felt like to be someone who wore a cochlear implant. So he gave me a couple of recommendations based on his own experience because I was only seeing it from the outside. And I hope I've kind of woven those into the story in a way that helps. One of the things that I did keep forgetting to do was, if she was not wearing her processor, she couldn't hear anything. But I would have people talking to her and she'd be responding to them. So, yeah, she could be a great lip reader, but I wanted to make sure that it's like, okay, wait, she has to put on the processor, it has to activate, then they can talk to each other. So little details like that are some of the things that you pick up when you go back to do your editing on any kind of book or movie or anything you're doing where you're trying to tell a story. And those little details, if you drop them, if somebody with a hearing impairment reads the book and they say, wait a minute, you said she's got an implant, but all of a sudden she doesn't need it. What's going on here? They'll catch that. And it's not just that either, because my youngest daughter, who I've mentioned is a writer, in one of her early books, I think it was the first series she wrote, it was a young adult about werewolves and called Seasons of the Moon. And she described her main character, but the cover art of that character didn't match the book description. And boy, did she get a lot of pushback on that from her readers. So, in later versions of the cover art, she made sure that everything was um, matching up because that was initially why I was, excuse me, why I wasn't really describing my characters in great detail, because I wanted people to be able to kind of visualize someone for themselves. But a lot of people have pointed out that they really wanted to know what the character looked like. So I've kind of tried to put that in without going overboard. I don't know if I'm being successful with that. We'll see. And it's always a learning process. So these are all of the things that I've been dealing with while I work on revising Restless Spirits book 2, and I hope I've been successful in catching all the little things that I missed and revising the story and making sure everything flowed the way it should. And I did get some feedback saying that the book was very spooky in certain places. So that's good because it is supposed to be a paranormal romance. I'm hoping that the romance part is also good, even though it's not spicy. Um, I think I tend to write more mellow romance, maybe cozy, even though it is a paranormal. So we'll see how that all turns out. You just kind of throw things in a pot, mash it all together, and see how it tastes. Yep, you can't tell I'm still writing a little bit of a high here. Anyway, I'm going to get this finished and posted, and then I'm going to go put my feet up and just play some games for a while and let my head kind of calm down. I just, I have so many thoughts in mind about what I want to do with the rest of my series. I want to do, I'm hoping maybe eventually to do something like a box set when all the books are released, and I want to have compendiums that go along with the series, and but that's work for another time. I need to slow my jets. So, thank you again for following along and you know, just being supportive. That's been a wonderful help through this process. I do appreciate the comments, and I will be responding to them in probably tomorrow's video because, like I said, I have some thoughts and really going to need to clear my head. I'm hoping after a good night's sleep it will calm down a little bit, but there's no guarantee. And I do need to really switch gears from paranormal romance to young adult historical. In the meantime, I'm off. So I hope you're having a wonderful day and that you've done at least one fun thing. I'm Cassidy Carson, and this is the life of a writer. Take care.